Hey everyone, I want to talk to you tonight about the importance of holding firm with your boundaries. I have been dealing with an obscene amount of defamation and slander of my character for well over a decade, but the worst of it has taken place over the last little over 8 years. And I want to talk about this because in the circumstances that I've survived surrounding the theft of my children from my care, there have been parties that were actively involved in severing that bond. And I want to talk about the ways in which that manifests and the unhealthy psychological makeup of people that facilitated this being done. So, the focus of this discussion is going to be basically just me airing out other people's dirty laundry and telling you exactly what they subjected me to in the course of their conduct. During a period of separation, when there was no established definitive custody determination, I received very poor advice from legal counsel. That legal counsel was retained very briefly, and when I quickly realized how inefficient and ineffective he was, I fired him, and that was Epahunton the Sixth. Following his involvement in me trying to retain custody of my two children, I hired Henry McLaughlin III, who was also ineffective counsel, and I'm putting that very kindly. And I wanted to draw attention to these two individuals because both of them have had legal ramifications as a result of their involvement in what can only be described as deliberate infringement on my constitutionally protected rights as a parent and facilitating the trafficking of my children via family court fraud and coercion. And one of these perpetrators was disbarred for a year for actions that he engaged in another family court matter that involved foster children. And I don't know all of the details, but it's actually a matter of public record if you want to search up that history that he has. He was disbarred for a year, and in my humble opinion, he should be permanently disbarred. As far as Henry McLaughlin, I don't have a lot of kind things to say about him because he did not take my safety and the safety of my children seriously. He did not take my psychological safety seriously. He did not take the situation seriously enough. And I believe he has done not only irreparable harm to me, but permanent and irreparable harm to the psyches of my children. I want to talk about the fact that when it came to me trying to exercise reasonable boundaries, when it came to the amount of access that certain people had to my children, I was rendered pretty much a surrogate to my children by other people involved in the corruption that took place. And the ways in which that manifest were numerous, but I wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things that happened. One incident that sticks out in particular had to do with my ex's mother taking my daughter, I believe it was my daughter, I could go back through the medical records and confirm it was one of my children. Anyway, she took one of them, and I think it was my daughter, to the doctor's office without consulting me, and actually signed as the parent to my child. She was neither one of my children's legal guardian at the time, and I found that to be just a very clear-cut illustration of the ways in which she felt entitled in her position to obfuscate my role as as the mother to my two children, and to basically supersede that and to install herself in that role. That's just a perfect illustration. I mean, who else is going to go into a doctor's office and sign off on medical paperwork for a child when they're not the legal guardian? I'm sure that was not the first time that she's overstepped reasonable boundaries. I can think of other instances that she was involved in that also were issues where her opinion was valued more than mine when it came to certain things regarding my children. Some people might think that me talking about these specific issues, maybe I'm just making too much out of a little thing. Maybe I'm being petty, but at this point, with what I've survived, and I say that barely because I seriously do believe that a lot of the people involved in this wanted me to end my own life or sought to facilitate instances in which it could have happened that I would no longer be alive. I think that they did these things intentionally. I think they tried to drive me to suicide. I think that they tried to facilitate harm coming to me publicly so that they would have plausible deniability for the crimes that they engaged in as they pertain to me and to my children. And I apologize for any pauses in this video as I'm trying to gather my thoughts and trying to figure out the best way to articulate this in a way that maybe will be understandable to people that have never been in an experience like this. It's a lot to deal with from a standpoint of trauma survival, but it's also very difficult to kind of articulate the scope of what was done to me. And one of the ways in which this manifests for me is it's one of the trauma responses. There are 4 standard trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And one of the ways in which I respond to ongoing trauma is to freeze. So when I have trouble articulating what has happened, or just difficulty articulating what I think needs to happen in certain circumstances, given what has been done to me and my children in the past, sometimes I have these pauses because I'm really trying to make sure that I can stay on track and can explain the extent of the damage. And that's difficult to do, and it's a process, and it's an ongoing process of recovery where I'm trying to constantly, I guess, share with the people that are open to this information. I'm trying to share my experience. I'm hoping that the trauma I've endured, if me sharing it can save somebody else's life and maybe stop them from self-harming or stop them from helping to enable others that are boundary violating and abusing them, then I feel like me sharing this content is useful. Not everybody is going to understand this type of dynamic, but I wanted to spotlight a couple of things. I wanted to spotlight the fact that me sharing this truth is not defamation. Me sharing the facts is not slander. If it is construed that way by the people I'm talking about, then they need to take a good, long, hard look at their actions and their conduct. And if they're feeling like they're being portrayed in a bad light, then perhaps they shouldn't have done what they did to me and my children. I'm not holding back anymore with the names. Mary Jo Peralt, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself for your conduct and what you did to destroy the relationship that I had with my children. I hope that you experience the same degree of emotional suffering that you've inflicted upon me in conjunction with your son who used 2 social security numbers to defraud me. I hope that you experience the same level of distress and lack of answers that you have forced me to endure with the fraud that you helped to facilitate and perpetrate on me. I hope that you never have a moment's peace given what you've done to me. That's really all I have to say to you.